Hello to all you sailors out there, and welcome to my humble channel. My name is Bandit Banks, and I have sailed the seas of Sea of Thieves since it was first released 2 years ago. Though I have really only started becoming a true legendary thief over the last 6 months, having to learn everything with my group of friends. Whenever I have new friends come to play Sea of Thieves, they always ask me how do they get into stealing and get to the point of being a legendary thief. At which point I try to link useful tutorials, except there really aren't any, and the few that are out there are always very specific parts of being a thief, not a complete overall guide, which is why I decided to put together this video that will take you from a noob to a true legendary thief that will make his money off of the hard work of others in this beautiful game. If you do enjoy the video, please be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know any feedback in the comments below, as this is my first video ever. And more importantly than that, follow me on my Twitch, link in the description, twitch.tv/bandit_banks, as I love streaming Sea of Thieves with me and my friends, and it's no fun to stream it to 0 viewers. With all that being said, sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. So, without further ado, let's hop straight into this tutorial. Here we have the essentials to being a legendary thief. Now this video is going to be broken down into 6 sections, each with timestamps that you will see below, so if you want to skip to a part you can. However, if you are new, I would recommend that you watch this entire video, as it will contain a lot of useful information. The first section is going to be what you need to be a thief. This is the basics: your clothes, your tuck emote, your character type, as well as some general ship knowledge. The second section of this is going to be server hopping. Server hopping is a necessary evil if you really want to be profitable, so I will take you through how to properly server hop, what to look for, the hierarchy of events you should steal from, and how to know if a server contains any spice. Number 3, after you've found that server, you need to know how to approach different steals. This is heavily dependent on A, your crew, your ship, and what you're going to steal, and who is there to steal it from. So I'll teach you how to generally figure out what a good approach is for making a steal. Number 4, we have sailing tactics. Now you will need to get into naval combat if you want to be a legendary thief. I will teach tactics for how to take on certain ship sizes depending on what ship size you are, how experienced you are, and just some sailing knowledge you will need to know. Number 5, we have close quarters PvP. Now you will need to do close quarters PvP again in steals if you want to become a true legendary thief, and I will teach you the pros and cons of each weapon, what situations to use them in, and depending on your role on your ship. And number 6, we have some helpful tips that don't really fit into the top 5 but are essential to becoming a great legendary thief. With all that being said, let's hop straight into the first section of what you need to be a thief. Now, the first section of this video is what you need to be a thief. This is stuff that needs to happen before you ever set sail, and the very big first thing you need to know about that is your character. What character you choose at the start of the game. Now, I'm not one to body shame, but you have to be skinny. This helps with tucking and making you much harder to hit, as opposed to the bigger characters. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is a necessity, is you have to be skinny. You can do it while you're big, but it's just going to make your life 10 times harder. Now, if you did pick the big character at the start of the game, changing it is relatively easy, and if you don't know how, you can just follow along with what I'm doing here on screen. All you gotta do is go up, find your local pirate emporium, talk to this lovely fellow here, go to the Pirates tab in the top right, second page, top left, there is a pirate appearance potion for 149 ancient credits, or $2.69. What this does is, when you restart your game, you can pick a new character type. Now, this is probably the only money I would recommend spending in this game, as this will help you immensely with tucking and make your journey to becoming a legendary thief 10 times easier. So, now that you have your character's fitness in line, the next thing we need to talk about is its wardrobe. Now, you need to have a certain type of clothes, no glowy stuff. I'm going to go through the first part of clothing, which is the clothing chest. That can be found on your ship, or you can follow along on screen here with what I'm doing, and I'll show you my personal wardrobe. So go to this guy here out front. There is a clothing chest. So I'll go through each tab, I guess. No costumes, no headgear for me. You don't need an undershirt. Now, for gloves, I use the Grand Admiral gloves, unlockable very early. I use the Midshipman's jacket, unlockable at the very start. No dress, no belt. For pants, I use the Ruffian Sea Dog trousers, again unlockable at the start, along with the Executive Admiral boots, all very cheap, can get it right at the start. And I go commando, no underwear required for ya boy. And that's all you need from the clothing chest, and that's the first half of your wardrobe. The second half of your wardrobe can be found in the vanity chest. This can be located on your ship or following here on screen, right next to the clothing chest that you just did. For beard, I personally rock a nice Ruffian Sea Dog beard and a slicked back hair, but make sure they're dyed black. This is just so it doesn't stand out. I find this important. Yeah, I just recommend painting everything you can black. I don't personally wear an eye patch. Now, hook if you want it. Now, no peg leg. This is very loud on the decks of ships, and if you're trying to sneak, it could make an extra thudding sound, which could give you away. It's a slight possibility, but it's whatever. Tattoos, go with what you want. I go the black makeup, again, just to follow that everything black thing. I don't have any curses, and as for tuck emotes, we'll get to that in the next section. The next section of what you need to be a thief is emotes. Now, emotes are useful for really only one thing, that is tucking, which accounts for about 50% of your steals that you're going to get, so it's obviously very important. Now, there's one main emote that basically everyone uses when tucking, but you won't spawn in with it. Don't worry, it's completely free. All you have to do is follow along screen here, and I'll show you where you can get this emote from. So head on up here to the Pirate Emporium, talk to this lovely chap, go into his stock, go at the top to the Pirate tab, and go to the second last page. Then click on the Hide and Seek emote bundle and get the Hide emote. It is completely free, and it is the best tucking emote in the game. Now, the two next to it, Barrel Hide, is not a bad one, and neither is Deck Hide, but they do cost money. They could be useful in some situations, but all you need is the Hide emote to be a successful tucker and all that jazz. Now, just because you bought it doesn't mean it's going to be equipped, so follow me here, go down here, and head to your vanity chest, and go to the very last tab, find the Hide emote, and equip it to your emote wheel. I would recommend putting it where I put it, top center, front prominent, just so you can have quick access to it. And with that, you now have access to the Hide emote. Now, the final part of what you need to be a thief is going to be ship customization. Now, most of you will start off with no gold if you are just starting the game, or if you've been in the game while, you'll have some. Either way, you don't need money. I'm going to show you the ship customizations that I use, but using a plain ship is just fine. So if we go up here to the ship, right, we can take a look inside here at all the ship customization options. Now, I used black hull. My theme is black, essentially. I use black everything. Black steering wheel, black cannons. The only thing is the smoke flares, but if you're close enough to use smoke flares, chances are you don't need to sneak up on them. Yeah, just flex a little, but as you can see, this all black ship looks quite nice, though the stock ship is great. One thing I would highly recommend against is using glowing things such as the cutthroat sails or the cutthroat figurehead. While these may look really cool up close and all that stuff, and while you're on regular voyages, when you're trying to tuck, these are surprisingly bright at night, seen over miles and miles. And this can compromise your sneak, which is obviously going to be a huge problem if you need to sneak up on someone. The other main thing when it comes to ships is always turn off these lanterns here. They can be found all over your ship. This includes the ones below deck. These, like the sails and figurehead and anything else that is bright, can be seen over miles and miles on the Sea of Thieves, which is an absolutely huge problem if you're trying to steal. But with all that being said, you've now mastered what you need to be a thief. We can now move on to the second section, which is server hopping. Now that you have gotten through all the basics and you know what you need, it's time to master the single most boring part of Sea of Thieves, server hopping. Now, server hopping is the most boring part, but it's also the most important, which usually go hand in hand. It can also be the most infuriating, because you can hop for hours and not get anything, whereas other nights you'll hop 5 servers and get 5, spicy servers. Anyways, in this section of the tutorial, I'm first going to go over all the world events. Then I'm going to go over the emissaries and how to be able to kind of predict and decide if it's worth it or not going after a world event to see if someone's there, as well as the hierarchy of emissaries, what to go after, what to leave, just to end up being the most profitable for you at the end of the day. Now, the first event we're going to talk about isn't really a world event because it's player started, although I classify it as a world event. It is the absolutely beautiful Red Eyes of the Fort of the Damned. A Fort of the Damned can only be started by players, and it is noticeable by this giant skull in the sky with 2 red eyes that never blink or waver or anything. This is the prize. This is one of the top things to steal from, as it's a guaranteed Athena, lots of money, and also the adrenaline rush of stealing one of these is unparalleled. The Fort of the Damned event can only take place at the Fort of the Damned island on the map. You will be able to see 2 Reaper's chests at the island once it's been started. And yeah, we'll discuss how to steal this in the next section, but this is just what to look for and how to identify a Fort of the Damned. And if you see this, you better not leave, because this is the ultimate prize for a legendary thief. The next world event we're going to talk about is a naturally spawning world event, along with the rest of the world events. The Fort of the Damned is the only non-natural one. But anyways, the next one we're going to talk about is the Skull Fort. The Skull Fort is identifiable with what you see on screen right now. A skull similar to that of the Fort of the Damned. The clouds around it are a bit lighter, and it has green flashing eyes, not red solid eyes like the Fort of the Damned. The Skull Fort can appear at any fort on the map. There's a bunch of them all around. You should be able to track down which fort just by looking at the skull in the sky and then looking at your map. In my personal opinion, Skull Forts are one of the most fun ones to steal because it's not as serious as the Fort of the Damned. And it's easier to tuck on, and you can just have a lot of fun in it. The loot isn't the best, but again, if you're just looking for a good time, these are pretty good to do. Or like a pretty good fort to have fun with. Or a pretty good steal to have fun with, I should say, sorry. The next world event we are going to talk about is Flameheart. Flameheart is identifiable by this glowing skull that you see on screen right now. And you just need to follow that skull to the island, similar to a skull fort, and you will see a bunch of ghost ships, and hopefully someone doing them. Flamehearts are very difficult to tuck on, if not impossible, and hard to steal, but I will go over that in the next section, how to approach stealing a Flameheart. This is just about how to identify it, and that is just by looking for this skull in the sky. The next world event we are going to talk about is the Ashen Lord. Ashen Lords are identifiable by what you see on screen right now. A red tornado-like structure, or weather system, I guess it would be the proper term, over an island out somewhere on the Sea of Thieves. Similar to forts and Flamehearts, just drive straight towards it, and eventually you'll find an island where the tornado is at. Ashen Lords are essentially a gigantic boss fight that deal out pretty good loot. They're a little different to tuck on versus other things, and I'll explain that again in the next section. But if you're looking to steal Ashen Lords, this is what you need to look for while server hopping. The final and worst of the world events that we're going to look at is the Skeleton Fleet. Now, this is probably the worst world event to try to steal for 2 reasons. 1, no one does them, and 2, the loot you get isn't great. However, should you be looking to steal one, you need to look for a ship in the sky with a green flashing light in the middle of it. You can see that on screen right now, what it looks like. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend trying to steal from these, but again, we'll go over how to steal from these in the next section. Now that we've gone over all the world events you want to look for while server hopping and how to identify them, we're going to go over the second part of server hopping, which is looking for emissaries. Now, looking for emissaries is a lot simpler and more consistent because every outpost you spawn out will have emissary tables to look at. When looking for emissaries, I generally only look at 2 tables. Now, this is completely dependent on the person, but I always look at the Athena table to see if there's any Athena emissaries up. As you can see on screen right now, when there is an Athena emissary up, you will see at this little table here, there will be a boat, such as this one. Generally speaking, I don't look at any of the other 3 emissary tables, though this is completely up to choice and you can do it if you want. Sometimes you might find 4 or 5 emissaries there, in which case it might be an alliance server, but generally speaking, I don't. I look at that, and then I look at the Athena table, and then I go to the map table, and I look around for a Reaper's Emissary. Reaper's emissaries can be identified on the map by what you're seeing now, a red ship with a flag. This particular one has 4 stripes, meaning it is a Reaper level 4. If you see a Reaper level 4 or 5 on your map that is not at Reaper's Hideout, or that you can beat to Reaper's Hideout, that is generally speaking a good server. Same as if there is 2 or more Athena's emissaries on the table. That is what I look for when I look at emissary tables and maps. Now that you know how to hop and what world events to look for, how to identify world events and all of the emissaries, you'll probably be asking yourself, which ones should I go for when server hopping? So, I'm going to give you my list of the top tier servers that you should always want to go for. Middle tier stuff that you might want to check out depending on how the night's going, and that might be worthy of a look, and the bottom tier servers that just hop. Like, you should not even bother checking out. Just don't bother checking them out under 99% of circumstances. Anyways, so let's start with the top tier servers. These are the servers that when you get on, you feel lucky, and you want to at least take a look around and check out. Coming in at number 1, the very tip top of these servers is the Fort of the Damned. A guaranteed Athena. 95% of the time, someone's gonna be at the Fort of the Damned because most people don't do all that work and just leave it. So you're pretty much always gonna get action. There's a lot of extra loot besides the Athena. Yeah, it's just a good one in general. It's one of the best money making methods in the game, and if you get at the Fort of the Damned, you better not hop it. Coming in at number 2, I have the Alliance servers. Similar to the Fort of the Damned, these are really rare servers, so when you get them, grab them, because generally Alliance servers tend to stack, and if you find a server with tons of emissaries up, and they're all Alliance, then boy, you're in for a good night to get all that loot. Coming in at number 3, we have multiple Athena emissaries. By multiple, I mean 2 or more. These are at least always worth a look. If you come across a server with 2 Athena emissaries on it, or 3, or 4, always take a look around and look for those Athenas, because Athenas are obviously the best thing you can get in the game. A lot of the time they'll be allianced, and yeah, it's just overall a good way to get Athena experience, which is the hardest to get in the game. And my 4th and final section of the top tier servers, we have level 5 and 4 Reapers. That you can beat to Reaper's Hideout. Keep that in mind. If they're already at Reaper's Hideout, it might not be worth it. Especially if these Reapers are at world events, because that generally means that they've already done some world events or stolen something, and now they're getting even more. But yeah, level 4 or 5 Reapers will almost always have something. You can track them on the map, and that's about it. Like, there's nothing more you need to say. So yeah, number 1, Fort of the Damned, 2 Alliance servers, 3 multiple Athenas, and number 4, high level Reapers. And that's the top tier servers that you always want to check out. Next up, we have middle tier servers. These are servers that I would recommend checking out if things are going dry and if you don't have a top tier server somewhere, as these could potentially lead to spice. There's only 3 in this. We've got Skull Forts, Ashen Winds, and Flame Hearts. These are good loot sources. They're fun steals. They're not going to be as valuable as the top 4 and stuff like that, but they're still worth a gander if you do want to look for spice and you want to have a good time on a server. And finally, at the very bottom, we have the bottom tier servers. This is fleet servers, servers with no emissaries, low-level Reaper servers with nothing else on them. If the low-level Reaper does have an emissary flag, though, and they're at a world event, I would recommend checking that out, because you already know they're there, stuff like that. But other than that, if it's a low-level Reaper just sailing around, don't even bother, because they probably don't have shit. And just anything else that doesn't fall into these other categories. Yeah, no, that about sums it up, yeah. So that's my hierarchy for servers that I look for personally when hopping, and that I would recommend you look for, because it has been very profitable for me, and I guarantee you, if you follow it, it'll be very profitable for you. Now that you've got everything you need to steal, and you've found that server, it's time to ask yourself that all-important question of how do I approach this steal? When it comes to approaching stills, there are two main methods, and sometimes you want to use a combination, sometimes you just want to use one, just the other, but we're going to talk about them all here. Now when it comes to the second method, which is just balls to the wall combat, we'll talk about mainly that in the sailing section, which is the next. But when it comes to tucking, I'm going to show you all the tuck spots on all the ships right now, just to get it out of the way. So here we have the sloop. Now the sloop's got a bunch of different tuck spots on it, but by far the best is what you're looking at now, the canopy. So if you come over to this edge and just slide down, eventually you'll feel yourself drop down. Now if you go into that tuck emote, you'll see that you basically hide in the bench. Now the farther up you go, just be careful not to fall off. The farther up you go and the more you rotate, you'll eventually, as you can see, become invisible. This is the best spot on any ship to hide. You're essentially invisible, you have clear view of the entire deck, and stuff like that. Now, of course you can do this spot on the other side here, and I'm going to show you what happens if you go too far off. As you can see, if you go too far, you will eventually fall into the water. Yes, yeah. and that's no good if you're trying to attack, so do be careful. Just climb back up and retry, but be quick. Again, same thing. Just wait till you feel that little kind of fall down right here. Then you can push yourself out a bit, turn, emote, and you are essentially hidden within the pillar. Best tuck spot on any ships here for the sloop. Yeah, it's just an incredible tuck spot. You can see the entire deck, nothing wrong with it. Next up, we've got a universal tuck. This is available on every ship, the cannon tuck. It's a classic, not my favorite because you're pretty visible, but it's okay at night and if it's a more gullible crew. Next up, we're going to go to an only sloop, I should say, right next to the map table here. Only do this if it's dark. If it's light, it's no good. But as you can see, if it's dark, you're pretty much invisible. So if it's nighttime and you need to tuck, make sure you shut off those lights and tuck right next to this map table. Again, great views, and you're pretty much invisible. And this spot down here isn't my favorite, but I figured I'd show it anyways. This is more if you're in a panic, someone's coming on the ship and you need to hide quick. A lot of the times they won't even bother looking down into this corner. Now these next two spots are universal on every ship, but again I'll show you it right here. So if we climb up here into the crow's nest, you can just tuck right here on the other side of the pole. Again, I would only tuck up here if there's a keg that you can tuck in because it will make you invisible, but up to you. I mean, you got a good view of everything up here, and a lot of times people don't even go up here. If you do have to tuck up here though, without a keg, I would recommend tucking on the mast. You can tuck anywhere on it, either side of it, but the closer to the middle, the better. As you can see, if you're right here, this is not a good spot because if you're climbing up the ladder, you'll be able to see. So what I would most likely recommend doing is going straight to the middle of it, turning around. So you're lined up and tucking like this. Can I get a camera view here? Yes, there we go. As you can see, you're tucked in and it's pretty hard to see you if you're climbing up the ladder. And yeah, this is available on the Brigantine and Galleon too, so I won't show it on those, but just know that you can do either of those, the cannon, the mast, or the crow's nest tuck on the Brig or Galleon. Yeah, that about sums up the sloop, so let's move on to the tucking spots on a Brigantine, which is the worst ship to tuck on. So, as I said before, the Brigantine is the worst ship to tuck on, bar none. There are no really great spots to tuck on a Brigantine, and you have to more rely on the crew being gullible. And some of these spots might seem weird or obvious, but trust me, they work for some reason. Yeah. Like, you can look for your own tuck spots, and the best tuck spots on a Brigantine are actually, if there's loot, I would tuck in the loot pile. But if it is a bare ship that you're tucking on, waiting for them to finish an Athena or something, these are the spots I would recommend. So let's walk up here to the brig. Funny thing, these storage crates here, I didn't even notice them. I just saw them, and holy shit, they are loaded. Like, I didn't know they were here before I started filming this. But, you know, there's some nice people out there in the Sea of Thieves, but that is not going to be us. Anyways, so, 4 cannon spots, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Yeah, not the greatest spots, but not the worst spots. Now, I do actually like this spot, but you need to have the deck hide emote, which costs $2.99. It may look stupid, and it may feel obvious, but not many people even come up to the front of the ship, and when they do, they don't usually look down. So there are situations where that works, and that has worked for me. Most of the tuck spots on a brig are below deck. My personal favorite is right here behind the quest table. Just turn off that light, come here, At night, again, this is perfectly invisible, and even during the day, you can see, if I can get an angle here, yeah, that it is, it's not bad, it's not bad. Generally speaking, you won't be seen unless a hole is busted in the ship right where you're tucked. And my other favorite tuck spot on the brig is right here next to the map table. Yeah, let's lay down here. I especially like this one because you can see the map, so you can see where they're planning to go, stuff like that, and you can communicate it with your crew. Now on the bottom deck of this ship, there are a ton of other tuck spots, like this little corner here, and just all types of spots you can go, but I would only really recommend those two, as those are the ones I've had the most success with. As well, the mast on this. The mast on the Brigantine is a really good option. Like, yeah, it's one of the better options on the brig. While it's one of the lower on the sloop, the brig doesn't have as many spots, so I'd definitely recommend it higher. But yeah, that covers most, if not all, of the good tuck spots on a brig. Again, though, I would only do it when there is treasure and you can tuck in the treasure. That would be like, that's my number one spot. Anyways, let's move right onto the galleon. With those two ships done, let's move on to the final ship's tuck spots, which is the galleon. The galleon is the biggest of all the ships in the game and therefore has the most amount of tuck spots. It has some pretty good ones, but I'm going to show you all of them so you can make your own judgments. Yeah, no, nothing really else to say. Let's head on up to this beautiful ship. Just let me hop on over, climb up this ladder here. So I'm going to start at the bottom deck of the ship because it's such a big ship and work my way up. Again, there are always tuck spots to find on this ship, but I'm going to show you the ones that I've personally used. Right back here in this corner, go into the hide emote. Just back out. Not a great spot, but because it's on the bottom deck, you can't really see anything. Same with this spot right here. I've used this one before and it has worked, but again, I wouldn't really recommend below deck tucks, though they do work just fine. As for mid deck tucks, not too many actually on the mid deck. There is two I have used before. The first is a deck hide right here if you do decide to purchase the deck hide emote. Again, looks a bit stupid, but no one really ever looks here, so I've never been caught using this. I can recommend it. And the other one is right in between these barrels here. What? Wait, I'm sorry, I don't use this too much. No, not that. Oh, wait, shit. Oh, damn it, that's pointed out. Turn around, yep, this way. Right there we go. Yeah, back out. No one will probably see you here. It's a pretty decent spot. Personally, I don't use it that much though, but I have used it in the past before. These are more of panic spots, like if you have to tuck quick. Anyways, let's move up to the front. Obviously, we've got the 8 cannon spots. You know, they all work. Not bad. Probably won't get cut, but deck hide right here in front of this front pillar. This is another good one. Again, it might seem a bit stupid, but no one ever looks down onto the deck when you're running around, and you do kind of blend in with the bottom here, so you probably won't get caught. One I can recommend is this spot right here. If you just edge out here, fall into this ledge, and tuck, you are completely hidden. There's no chance anyone on the deck will see you. However, if they're picking up loot using that harpoon, or if they're swimming in front of the boat, they could see you. If they do have a big figurehead on, though, that'll help you immensely with tucking here. I'm going to go up here to my absolute favorite spot. This is the one I use probably 80% of the time at tucking galleons, which is the steering wheel. You hide right there, and you like basically go in the steering wheel. No one checks here. And, you know, the person driving the ship can't see you because you're below. You're well into the steering wheel. Yeah, it's just an all-around great spot. You can see the deck. You can go... You just get all the information you possibly need. Let's jump on down here. This corner here isn't a bad one. But if someone does come out onto the rowboat and they're running in and out of that door, there's a chance they do see you. So I wouldn't fully recommend this spot, though it does work. This is another really popular one that a lot of people use, but I don't. Because a lot of times people will stack loot behind this captain's chair. I can't get an angle here. But yeah, no, you're just hide emoting behind the captain's chair. Not a bad spot, again, more quick tide spot, but it's not the greatest. This is a spot right here I can recommend. Because rarely does anyone ever come around to this side of the balcony. So you should be pretty much undisturbed here. Jump on over here. This isn't a bad one. Oh, no, not that way. Turn around. Yep. Back out on here. You won't get spotted. And again, the only way people will see you here is if they're in the water climbing up the ladder and they're looking side to side. Oh, this is a quick little tip actually for PvP here. If you're running around back here and someone's chasing you and you need to eat, you can just jump here, and on. As well, if you're up here and people are coming after you, you can just jump straight onto the balcony, eat, and then make your way back around. Those are just some quick little PvP spots. Oh yeah, one more tuck spot is the mast. Like I said on the Brilliant Sloop, another good spot, but the Galleon does have better spots, so I would recommend Wheel Tuck. Wheel Tuck's my #1 spot, but any of the spots in this video you've seen will most likely work for you. And with that being said, that's all of the good tuck spots on the Galleon to my knowledge. And let's move right on to the next section, which is, of course, how to approach different steals. So, for this section of how to approach different steals, I'm going to explain how to approach all the steals on the top tier servers in the middle tier servers from my server hopping section. I won't bother them with the bottom tier servers, though I think I might just throw skeleton fleets in there, just because some people do like stealing them, but the rest, no. So yeah, let's start off with #1, which is, of course, the Fort of the Damned. The Fort of the Damned, you really got to evaluate your situation. If you are a solo trying to steal the Fort of the Damned, you might want to just think about getting the Athena, depending on who's at the fort. If it's a sloop at the fort, you might be able to get away with everything, but if it's like a bigger ship, a galleon, or an alliance, then the Athena should be your primary goal, as that is the ultimate prize for legendary thieves. If you are a solo, here's my going up against a ship that you decide you only want the Athena. Here's my recommendation. Get in and tuck. You gotta tuck if you want to steal that Athena. A lot of the time, they won't even be paying attention, so they'll just bring the Athena onto the ship after the fort's done and go back for more loot. If you see that opening, grab the Athena, jump in the water, swim away. They won't notice, because they'll be too busy trying to get the rest of the loot out as quick as they can. They'll think their crewmates moved the Athena or something. You'll get away with it 9 times out of 10. Now, if you do have a bigger crew, and you're more confident, and you want everything, the first thing you gotta do is secure the Athena still. So, what I would recommend is leaving one person on the ship so they can rumble in, and sending 2, 3, whatever's left over to tuck. Get at least 2 people tucked on the ship, or minimum 1, but at least I'd aim for 2. Get 2 people tucked on the ship, and just wait for them to finish it. Wait for them to do all their work for it. Once they've finished, wait for them to bring the Athena to the ship, and you have it. If you let them know that you are there before that, they will try to run with the Athena. They will hide the Athena. They might try to swim away with the Athena, and there's a chance you lose it. You want to guarantee that you get it. However, saying that, once the fort ends, have your galleon friend or brigantine the person on the ship start rumbling in. A lot of times what this will cause is them to panic, and they'll bring the Athena to the ship right away and try to take off, leading them right to the people tucked on their ship, which, as you can see in the gameplay, is exactly what happened. Me and my friend were tucked on their ship. They saw the ship rolling in. They brought the Athena in a panic, tried to raise, and we were able to kill them and get out with the Athena, or at least secure the Athena until our ship got there and we could get the rest of it. This is what you want to aim for. This is the goal. Once you have that Athena secured, then you start killing them. If you have an extra person, keep 2 people on the ship, just holding them there, making sure they don't move. Send the other person up to the vault to get the mega keg. If they blow mega kegs, bring that 3rd person to the ship and just hold the ship down until your ship arrives and you can dumpster them. Always keep eyes on that Athena though. Bring it up to top deck, do what you gotta do, keep it in. They won't try to swim away or hide the rest of the loot, and if they do, what's the point of it? It's a useless thing. You'll probably find it anyways, but just make sure you have the Athena secured before you make the move. I can't stress that enough, because if you don't, they will try to run with it. That is not good. That is the last thing you want. Yeah. That sums up about how we generally go about stealing Fort of the Damned. If you're wondering where we're parked at this place called North Rock. I'll reverse the stream to this part here. It's a rock straight to the north of it. You might think, won't they see you approach? Generally, no. Generally, no, they don't, because Usually ships are parked on the south side of the island, so they can't see to the other side. And unless someone's on the back of the island looking off to the north, they won't see you pull up to North Rock, and it's the closest place to swim from. So that's always good. We generally don't bring rowboats, but you can if you're willing to take that risk. Yeah, no, that about sums up how to go about approaching to steal a Fort of the Damned, or at least how we do it. The next type of steals we're going to talk about is Athenas and Reaper 5s. I'm going to classify these as the same because they follow the same general principle with only very slight differences. Because both of these are going to end up being balls to the wall combat, no matter which way you look at it, to sink the ship and take everything. The only difference really is that the first thing you need to do on the Athena is get on. You need to get onto that Athena and you need to figure out what they have. If they have that Athena, and if they don't have the Athena, what islands they have marked, all the information you can get. If you get on their ship and they don't have the Athena yet, tuck, make sure they're on an Athena quest, obviously, or a gilded Athena if you're really lucky. Just tuck and wait. Don't spook them. Well, try not to spook them. Try to make your approach as silently as possible, because if they get spooked, then they won't dig up the Athena until they feel safe or they think the coast is clear, and that's just going to extend your session longer than it needs to be. But after the Athena is on board, it's the same principle. Balls to the wall combat. Get someone on. Just go straight at them. Cut them off. Get between them and the nearest outpost. Hunt them down. Corner them. Just pedal to the metal. You want to sink them as quick as they can, because if they get running, they'll start dropping shit off at outposts. It could be a long chase. You'll lose value. Yeah, take them head on. Yeah. I'll get more into sailing tactics and how to properly PvP in the next section, but for Athenas and Reapers 5, after you've confirmed that something's on the Athena, or once you've got a Reaper 5, and you can beat the Reaper 5 to Reaper's Hideout. That's something I forgot to mention. Make sure you get between the Reaper 5 and Reaper's Hideout, because that's where they will head to sell, to get that 2.5 bonus. Head after them, get them, and yeah, just combat, man. Just get into that naval combat, stop them, do not let them get away, do not let them get running. Yeah, a lot simpler than the Fort of the Damned, but that's basically the essentials for how to steal Athenas and Reaper 5s. Next up, we have Alliance servers. These are really rare, so you won't come across them very often, but when you do, you can have a lot of fun. All you really need to know about stealing from Alliance servers is this. If you have a small crew, I would be friendly with them, single a ship out that you know is loot, blindside them, and get to an outpost, because you are going to have 4 ships converging on you the second you start attacking that. But get them alone, take their loot, sink them, and dip to the nearest outpost to sell. That's your best chance on an Alliance server, if you're a small crew, is to catch them by surprise. Now, if you're a bigger crew and you're confident, again, I'd recommend at least starting by singling out one ship, and then you can just wait, because all the other ships are going to start coming to you. They'll all have loot. If you feel confident in your sailing skills and your sailing capabilities, just wait for you're the bait, and they're going to come after you. Yeah, I might try to sell like some of the more valuable shit, but you don't need to run. And if you feel confident, wait for them to come for you and let them bring all that loot to you. Just make sure you don't sink, or else you'll look pretty stupid. Yeah, Alliance servers, not a whole lot to go over, honestly, but it's dependent on crew size mainly. So yeah, again, if you're a small ship, make friends, blindside someone, sell quick. If you're not, single the ship out, attack them, and wait for the rest to come after you. The next thing we're going to talk about stealing is the middle tier servers, and we're going to start that with Skull Forts and Ashen Winds. These are both similar, as these are both you want to tuck. Quick note, it doesn't really matter where you tuck on the fort. I'd just stay away from the side closest to the shore, because the boss or skeletons might come and shoot you out of your tuck. But on Ashen Winds, tuck below deck. This is because the boss will sometimes heave fireballs at the deck, and that'll light it on fire. And if you're on top deck, you'll catch on fire, and that'll force you out of your tuck, which will expose you. So when you go into tuck, On forts, just stay away from the side closest, and on ashen winds, stay below deck. Now, on forts, make sure, after they finish the boss, again, do not let your presence be known, because this key can be anywhere, it's not shown on the map. Wait for them to open that vault before making your move. Once they've opened that vault, you can start killing if you want. You can wait to see if they'll bring a mega keg, then it's up to you. But do not attack, or even start moving your ship for that matter, until they've opened that vault, because you do not want them to run with the key or try to hide the key, because it is a small key, it doesn't glow, it's a pain in the ass to try to find. With Ashen Winds, the second it's over, I would start rumbling in. They're going to try to get the skull out, the Ashen Wind skull, which is the main prize of that. This isn't a problem if you're already tucked on their ship. Once they bring the Ashen Wind skull, just slay out until they get there. Yeah, until your ship gets there and you can sink them. If you really wanted, you could torch the ship with the Ashen Wind skull, but do keep in mind that that will lower the value of it. On forts, once you kill them on their ship and your ship is rumbling in, you can wait for it to shoot. If they are stupid enough to bring the mega keg, obviously use it, just blow it up. Even if you blow it up in the mast, it'll still do lower tier, like bottom deck holes, so you'll still be fine. Yeah, I mean, that about sums up how to steal Ashen Winds and Skull Forts. They're not overly complicated. Like, the Fort of the Dam was by far the most in-depth one, but Ashen Winds and Skull Forts, tuck, wait, see what happens, and just kind of approach with caution. And the final two servers we're going to talk about is the Flameheart, which is a middle tier server, and Skeleton Fleet, which I do classify as a bottom tier server, but I'll do it anyways because it's similar to stealing Flamehearts. With Skeleton Fleets and Flamehearts, you don't want to try to tuck. They're going to be moving around fighting ships. It'll be pretty hard to tuck, and they're all going to be on their ship anyways, so they'll see you get on. It's kind of pointless, but I mean, if you're feeling adventurous, go for it. The thing with these, you need to supply up big time, because both Skeleton Fleets and Flamehearts, they drop a lot of supplies, so you're going to be going up against a well-stocked ship. Keep that in mind. Especially Flamehearts, because once they kill the final boss, they will get Wraith Balls, and those things are essentially like shooting kegs at someone. As you can see on screen right now, it's insane the damage they do. So when going after these guys, the second the boss finishes, you want to start rumbling in. You don't want them to get a chance to think. They're going to be cocky. They're going to still be trying to pick up the loot. That's your chance to strike. Get on their ship as quickly as humanly possible. Do not let them use those Wraith Balls. If you have any curse balls, like Sleepy Balls, Weary Balls, same thing actually, Dance Balls, Grog Balls, just anything to slow them down, use them. Just dump your load on them. Stop them from using those Wraith Balls. Do not let them get set. If they get set, they are going to outgun you. Same with Skeleton Fleets. They obviously don't get Wraith Balls, but they will still be cocky and try to pick up all the loot. That is your chance to strike. They'll be vulnerable. So the second you see that, get as close as you can without being too suspicious. Rumble in. Catch them off guard. A lot of the times they won't even see you're coming until they hear the cannon shots, and at that point it's almost too late for them, considering you don't mess it up. Yeah, these are some of the more difficult ones to steal, especially Flameheart, because of those Wraith Balls, but just do be careful. And that is essentially how I would approach stealing a Skeleton Fleet, and how we do approach stealing Flamehearts. And with that just about wraps up our section on how to approach different steals. Do keep in mind that there are tons of ways to approach each steal, and those are just the ways we usually approach it, and that have led to, really high rates of success and basically almost always getting successful steals. But feel free to go about it your own way. If you have any questions about that, feel free to leave it in the comments, and keep in mind I really had to shorten down those because I didn't want this video to be like 4 hours long, which it easily could have been if I went into detail about each section. But yeah, no, that's just a rough outline of how to approach different types of steals. Feel free to come on over to my Twitch page and ask me questions live about, specifics on how to go about approaching steals. But anyways, moving right on from that, we're going to move into the next section, which is, of course, sailing tactics. Sailing is one of the harder things to do in this game, and getting into combat with another ship is also can be extremely difficult. So I'm going to teach you different tactics that we use when fighting, depending on what ship we're on, what ship we're going up against, what they might have, just to give you the overall best chance of successfully sinking that ship, you know, given your current situation. Now, for this section, we're going to go over all 3 ships and how to approach combat while you're sailing each one of them. And we're going to start with the smallest, so that obviously means we are going to start with the sloop. As I just said, the sloop is the smallest of the 3 ships you can use in this game. It's a 2-man ship with 1 cannon on each side and just 1 sail, making it the smallest and most nimble ship in the game. So let's go over pros and cons of this ship. Pros. Number 1 main pro of this is how nimble it is. This thing can turn on a dime. Yeah, there is basically no turning radius on this thing. You can turn anywhere as quick as you need to. So you can just do a quick turn if the galleon's chasing you, and they'll blow past you because they won't be able to turn unless they anchor that quick. And yeah, no, it's a great ship if you need to get away. Second pro of this ship is if you're going straight into the wind, it is the fastest ship in the game, meaning you can outrun everyone. Yeah, no, those are the 2 main pros of this ship. And the 2 main cons are, first, your crew size. You only have 2 people, which makes getting into combat a pain, especially if you need to put a border on another ship. And number 2 is, again, being it is such a small ship, it has a severe lack of firepower, comparatively speaking to other ships. So if you get into a broadside battle with another ship, if you don't know what broadside means, broadside of a ship is the side with all the cannons on it. So if you're lined up with ships, all their cannons are pointing at you, that means you're on their broadside. And if you have a ship in your cannon range, that means they're on your broadside, just a quick definition. But yeah, no, this is the worst ship for broadside battles because it only has 1 cannon on it, 1 cannon per side. So you have a severe lack of firepower on the sloop. The next ship is the 3-man ship, which is the Brigantine. Again, the Brigantine is a 3-man ship with 2 cannons on each side and 2 sails. The Brigantine's kind of like the jack of all trades, whereas it's good at everything but not great at anything. So let's go over the pros and cons of this particular ship. First Brig Pro, like I just said, is it is good at everything. It is a great combination of speed and agility, allowing you to turn quick and go fast while doing so. Not the slowest into the wind, not the slowest with the wind, just the middle on both grounds. So that is a plus. The other main pro of a brig, it is fairly easy to control, meaning it doesn't take too much experience to sail this. You don't need to be a great sailor. It can turn pretty quick, it goes fast, and it's not an overly complicated ship to sail. Now let's move on to cons of the Brigantine. The first con is, as I just said, while it is good at everything, it is not the best at anything, which means it's not the fastest with the wind, so the galleon will outrun you, and it's not the fastest into the wind, so the sloop will outrun you. So you kinda have to weigh those. As well, doesn't have the most firepower. That's the second con, is it only has 2 cannons per side, which isn't good if there's a 3-man ship, especially if you're going up against a galleon, which has 4 cannons per side of 4 men, which means they can all be shooting those cannons at once, whereas you're going to have one person who can't really be doing anything when it comes to shooting cannons at the enemy ship. And those are the main pros and cons of the Brigantine. And now, we are going to move on to the big boy, the sea tank, the galleon. The galleon is a 4-man ship with 8 cannons, 4 on each side, and 3 massive sails. It is crewed by a crew of 4. And let's get straight into the pros and cons of this ship. The first pro is it has a 4-man crew. That is the first pro. Having that 4-man crew can be the difference between winning a fight and losing a fight. Extra hands on deck, all that good jazz. You know, you can have borders, you can have someone doing everything. Yeah, no, the big crew size can make a huge difference. And the second pro of the galleon is its sheer firepower. It's got 4 cannons per side, which means if you're going into a broadside battle, everyone on your ship can have a cannon shooting at the enemy. And if you're in a full galleon broadside with all 4 cannons shooting, you are not going to survive it. It is it's just a barrage. Too many holes to fix. Yeah, if you can get that galleon positioned perfectly, the enemy ship doesn't stand a single chance at surviving that. With that being said, let's move on to the cons of the galleon. The first is its turning radius. This thing is notoriously horrible for turning. You have to pull some quick maneuvers if you want to do a quick 180, but if you try to normally turn this thing, it'll take you basically a full minute to turn around, especially if you're going fast, and by then, the ship you're trying to catch or fight is going to be a minute away from you, and that's a huge difference in this game. The second con of the galleon is how hard it is to control. Unlike the brig and sloop, you can't really just pick this ship up. It takes a lot of practice to get good at driving the ship, and you all have to be working together in sync to successfully drive the ship and to really give it that full potential. And with that are the pros and cons of every ship. Now let's move on to sailing tactics that are universal amongst every ship in this game. So, with the pros and cons of each ship now done, it's time to talk about the actual sailing tactics. Keep in mind, you're going to need to go out and do these a lot before you really get the hang of it. Me just saying it isn't immediately going to make you great. You need to go out, you need to get into PvP, and you need to apply some of these tactics to really get good at it and to understand what I mean here. Anyways though, the first of these tactics is you need to get into, the first thing I do, or we try to do at least in battle, is get into the ideal firing position. Now what is that? It is a position where you're basically in front of their ship, shooting at them when they're coming at you, and they can't shoot back. This is perfect. If you get the first shots on people, then you're taking away a few of their crewmates because they have to repair, they have to bucket, they have to do all that. And it's just taking a few of them away from being able to come and board you, being able to hurt you. And it gives you the upper hand in a fight if you get those first shots off, and if you get into that perfect position to hurt them where they can't hurt you. Now, it is okay to go broadside to broadside if you are the same size as that ship, or if that ship is smaller than you. However, if you're going up against a ship bigger than you, you really don't want to go broadside to broadside, especially if you don't get the first shots, because they're going to have more people on cannons than you, and you're going to end up getting the worst. You're going to end up being worse off out of that exchange. Now, after you've got those shots down and you've put some damage on the ship, you need to board them. Now, it is possible to sink ships without boarding them, but it's really inconvenient. It takes a while. And if you need to board them. You need to have someone go over there and disrupt them, kill them, and most importantly, anchor them. If you can get them anchored, they're fucked. Because they're not going to be able to move. It'll take them a while to raise that anchor. They have to repair. They have to do everything. Yeah. So you need to get someone on their ship. You need to get that anchor down. And you need to get your ship into a position where you can fire them. They can't fire at you. And then just go to town on them. Send another person over to board. Have 2 people. If you're on a galleon, for example, maybe you have 2 people attacking, like on their ship, killing them, stopping them from repairing, and 2 people on the ship just laying cannons into them. That's the quickest way to sink them. If you're on a smaller ship, have 1 person on board. Like if you're on a sloop, for example, have 1 person on their ship and 1 person on your ship. The person on their ship just stopping them from getting repairs and, just being a general nuisance. The person on your ship, again, just putting some shots in them because it's going to take a while to sink a bigger ship, especially if you're on a sloop. Some more tips on this front are chain shots. Generally speaking, the first shots we shoot are chain shots. If you can take down 1, 2, all 3 of their masts, however many they have, then you'll be able to pull out in front of them and get into that ideal firing position. So don't undervalue the chain shots. Do keep in mind that chain shots and cannonballs shoot different, and you need to be a lot closer to chain shot someone. But you'll get the hang of shooting them eventually. Other tips, fire bombs. Fire bombs are amazing. Fire is stupidly overpowered in this game. While it may not sink your ship fast, it is the most annoying thing in the world. It'll keep burning through their health, burning through their food, So especially when you board, get some firebombs on them. I'd recommend throwing a firebomb at the anchor, so if they try to raise anchor, that'll kill them more or less, or at least take away 2/3 of their health, so you can kill them pretty easily. Yeah, no, fire is just a general nuisance, so do not undervalue it. If you're going over to board someone, I'd bring blunder bombs. It's really useful when you drop the anchor. Just throw them at the anchor. They won't be able to pick it and stop it from dropping. Another useful tip. I would say if you are on a smaller ship, such as a sloop going up against a galleon, keep in mind you're heavily outgunned, you're heavily outcrewed. The first thing you need to do is get someone on board to their ship and get them anchored before you bring your ship in. Now this will be hard because you'll have to basically 1v4 them, or at least distract them long enough for your sloop partner to do some damage. But that's really the only way you can take on a galleon, unless they're like utterly terrible and you're great. But yeah, you need to get someone on board first. If you're on a brig versus a galleon, you don't really need to. I'd recommend chain shouting first, just get into that firing position. But yeah, no, if you're sloop versus galleon, I'd always try to board them first and at least get them anchored. And when it comes to chasing down ships, like ships that are running from you, keep in mind that when you're going with the wind, the galleon's the fastest, considering you have full wind, followed by the brig, and the sloop's the slowest. But when you're going into the wind, it's the complete opposite. Sloop's the fastest, the brig is middle, and then the galleon's the slowest. If you're chasing someone down, always try to catch some crosswind, get as much wind as you can. If you are a horrible person and you're running, depending on your ship size, either go into the wind or with the wind. The only time I condone running is if you have like one Athena to, drop off. I wouldn't mind dropping that off, then turning to fight them just to be safe, just to make sure you get it if you earned it. But other than that, don't run. Don't be that guy. Or also running to resupply is another big thing. Yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. Some other tips. Your crew, I would recommend don't use in-game chat. Don't be a hot-making crew. I mean, if you want to join open crew, that's fine, but keep in mind getting into combat on an open crew with hot mics isn't a good thing, because you'll basically be broadcasting to the other ship what your plans are, what your intentions are, what your status is, which isn't good, so always try to get them in a Discord call. If you do need a crew, head on over to a Sea of Thieves Discord, or come join mine, link in the description for that, where you can always find PvP players there. And yeah, again, man, I could go on for literally hours and hours about things you could do, like different things you need to do sailing, but you're not gonna get all the information and be amazing just by listening to what I'm saying here and just by following those tips I just gave. You need to go out there and sail. You need to get into combat. You need to realize you're gonna get your ass kicked a few times. You're gonna get everything stolen from you. You're gonna get trash talked. Just don't give up, be persistent, and eventually you will start winning the majority of fights. There's a lot of people out there on the seas, they never really get into combat. They only do their big loot hauls, PvE and all that, but PvE is so much different than real combat, and you really got to get into it just to make sure you don't get stolen from, even if you're not here to be a thief and you just want to get better at sailing and get better at fending off pirates from your loot. I think that just about wraps up all of my personal PvP tips for you, or at least ship-to-ship combat tips for you. If you have any more, again, my Twitch is in the description. I'm trying to, start streaming a lot more on there, so feel free to stop by, ask me a question. Again, this is more of a general guide because it's hard to get into specifics and keep this video under like 5 hours long. But those are just some general tips for sailing. So yeah, go out there. I hope to see you sailing on the seas and to get into a fight with you. Eventually you'll get better. But with all that being said, let's move straight on to the next section, which is, of course, close quarters PvP combat. When it comes to close quarters PvP, there is not a whole lot to go over, as there's only 4 weapons in this game to use. You can only use 2 of them at once, and it's really one of those things where you do need to practice a lot to get good at it, as the combat in this game is a lot different than the combat in any other game I've played. But here's a quick overview of the weapons. So you got the cutlass. It's a sword. Obviously it doesn't need ammo. It's the only weapon in the game that doesn't need ammo. You can block with it, or you can attack with it. You can also do this other attack called a sword lunge, and it takes 4 hits to kill someone. Next up, you got the flintlock pistol. This has got a very long range on it. It's got 5 shots on it. As with every other gun in the game, there's only 5 shots. And it takes 2 shots with the flintlock pistol to kill someone. Next up is the Eye of Reach. It has the same range and kind of damage as the flintlock pistol. The only difference is this one has a sniper scope on it, so you can really zoom in. I'd always take the Eye of Reach over the flintlock pistol, but that's just my personal opinion. And the final weapon is the blunderbuss. The blunderbuss's damage is dependent on how close you are. It is the only weapon in the game that can one-shot somebody. You have to be very close to get a one blunder on somebody, but yeah, you can do it. If you're right next to them and you shoot them, it's an instant kill. However, the farther away you are, the less damage you're going to do, and there's a point where you won't even hit a shot, which isn't that far away. So this weapon's only useful at really close ranges. What weapon combination you should use is dependent on your role on the ship. For me personally, I use a sword and a blunderbuss. This is because I'm usually the first person to board an enemy ship, and getting a one-shot on someone immediately is a good way to take down one crew member. The sword is really useful for blocking in that situation while the anchor's dropping. Yeah, no, it's good for my particular situation. If you're going for a tuck, I would almost always recommend bringing an Eye of Reach with you. Either you or one of your crew members. This is so you can snipe mega kegs in the crow's nest and kill back spawns in the water after you've sank the ship, as the Eye of Reach and the flintlock pistol are really good in the water as they're ranged. If you have a blunderbuss in the water and you're going up against someone and you can't get near them, they'll just kill you pretty quick with either of those two. So the Eye of Reach is really good for mopping up the back spawns. But those are only my recommendations. A lot of people like to double gun. A lot of people like to use the Eye of Reach and the blunderbuss, for example, so they can get the best of both worlds. But personally, I always like to keep a melee weapon on me, just in case we don't have an ammo box or the ship sinks and there's no ammo box. We have to go up against people in water. But yeah, you gotta play this game. You gotta get into PvP situations. You gotta get into fights with people, and just kind of find which weapon combination you like the best. However, that being said, here are some tips that you should use when using said weapons. When you're using the cutlass, a lot of people completely forget that there is a block and a strafe jump option with these. So, for me, if you just right click, like I play on PC, so if you right click, I don't know what it is on controller, but you can just block attacks, and blocking is very useful because A, it buys time. They can't get through it unless they shoot or they sword lunge. As well, besides buying time, it also buys space, because a lot of time they'll get frustrated when they can't attack you, and they'll go to reload, and that'll give you a chance to maybe eat, dodge, do something. Oh yeah, dodge. Almost forgot to put that. If you're blocking, you can press the jump button, and you'll more or less strafe jump around. This is useful because you can get across places really quick. Not faster than running, but you'll be protected while moving. And when it comes to all the other guns, obviously blunderbuss, make sure you're really close when you shoot. Get as close as you can when you're shooting that thing. It's also really, really useful for guarding ladders. If someone's climbing up the ladder, you can basically wait at the top, and the second they climb up over, you're right there, and it's an immediate insta-kill, basically. So the blunder's really good for that. But as for the Eye of Reach and flintlock, I don't have too many tips for that. Just gotta make sure you hit your shots, which is gonna take a while to master. But there's no, like, special features on them. Yeah. Maybe just one for the Eye of Reach. If you're going for a tuck, don't zoom in to look at it with the Eye of Reach, or the spyglass for that matter. This is just a quick little tip, because they'll see the flash in the water, and that'll give away that someone's there, and that they're coming to tuck. So if you're close to a ship, and you're trying to be sneaky, don't, like, zoom in with the scopes on them. But yeah, no, this is by far the shortest section of this video, because there's not a whole lot to go over, considering there's only, really 4 guns in the game, or 4 weapons in the game. There's only 3 guns. Be conservative with your ammo. And yeah, the fighting in this game is really, like, unique compared to any game. So if you're good at other first-person shooters, don't assume you're going to be good at this one. You really got to get into PvP, especially when it comes to close quarters PvP, to have any idea and just kind of feel it out. Oh yeah, and one last tip, when it comes to the cutlass, there is an attack called a sword lunge. Essentially, if you hold left click or whatever the attack button is, you'll slowly wind up and then lunge forward. This attack is good. It deals a lot of damage, but the thing is, if you miss it, there's a penalty for it. If you miss the sword lunge and you don't hit anything, you won't move for about 3 seconds, and you're basically dead if you miss it. And it takes a while to like load up the sword lunge, so people will be able to dodge it, move it, wait for you to miss, and then kill you. This is only really useful if, like, for example, there's people raising the anchor. You can sword lunge into the anchor and you can attack all 3 of them at once basically and do half damage on all 3 of them. But other than that, or like really specific situations where someone's coming straight down a path at you, I wouldn't recommend, and they can't dodge it, I wouldn't recommend using the sword lunge. Yeah, if you're looking for more info on that, again, come ask me questions I have on my Twitch, but this is all the information I can really think of for this section. I know it's going to be the shortest section of the video, which probably isn't a bad thing, but yeah, that just about sums up everything or at least the general idea behind close quarters PvP. So yeah, go out there, fight some people, figure out your combinations, and get to work. And with that, let's get into the final section of this video, which is just some other helpful tips. Alright, and let's get into this final, really short section. This is just a few helpful tips I have for you. One tip that I just forgot to mention and noticed when I was editing that I should probably mention it for tucking, and then just 2 general tips to overall improve your experience on Sea of Thieves. So the first tucking tip: when approaching a tuck, make sure you swim underwater. If you don't swim underwater and you swim on the surface, you're going to be visible, people will be able to see you coming up, but more than that, the sound you make on top of the water, like the splashing, is extremely loud. Sounds like a duck trying to learn how to swim. So make sure, until you're on the ladder, just stay below the water. Remember, you want to make as little noise as possible when approaching a tuck. Yeah. Now, these next 2 tips, you can choose not to listen to them. That's fine, but they're just stuff I would recommend. First of all, if you're just starting out, like you want to play Sea of Thieves, you're like, how do I become this thief? Like, this is going to be your first time sailing. At least at the start, I would recommend doing some regular quests, doing some world events, getting the feel for them when you're not trying to steal them, stuff like that. Do some tall tales, do all that stuff. Get a feel for the game. It'll get you better at mechanics sailing. Just get all the basics down before you go out there and try to pull off some insane heists. Again, you can choose not to listen to that, but it is just something I would recommend you do. And finally, my last tip here is to find a crew to play with semi-permanently or permanently. Like, I've been playing with my crew for the last 6 months, and during that time we've learned all of the stuff I've shared with you in this video and a lot more. So playing with the same crew, you learn together, you build together, you grow together, and you're just going to have a lot more fun. And it's just going to be a way more enjoyable experience. If you need to find a crew, we use the Sea of Thieves community Discord, but I just started up my own Discord called Tuck Team 6. It's where me and my friends play together. It's brand new, but hopefully some people will join that from my Twitch and from this. So start to build up a bit of a PvPing community there. So links to both of those Discords are in the description. And yeah, no, that just about sums up my Noob to Legendary Thief complete guide. If you did enjoy this video, please be sure to follow me down below on Twitch, as I am streaming on there a lot, and I do love streaming Sea of Thieves, and streaming to nobody is no fun. So if you're not going to subscribe here, at least follow me there. I'd really appreciate it. Also, I mean, if you want to, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. This is my first video. It took me way longer than I thought to make. So a like and a subscription would be very much appreciated. But besides that, I'll see you out on the seas, and I hope you guys all have a great day.